Well, let's not forget that Tim Walz was the candidate for vice president of the Democrat Party. All right. If he was that corrupt and did that up in just Minnesota, imagine what he would do if he got his hands into the federal government and how much money he could be floating around with that. I mean, and that's what Wyatt said is right. I don't support everything that Trump does. You know that I don't support his stance on Ukraine up until now. He wanted to leave. He should have been told and advised this long ago to get the hell out of it. Not really sure about Venezuela. I think it's more of a power play to demonstrate American strength, maybe get rid of a drug deal, but I also think it's to put bricks in its place, so to speak. But the other thing is that, if it wasn't Trump, who the hell else could we count on? There was nobody else that you could count on because they're all from the Washington, D.C. establishment. He's the first one from outside of that actually came in and tried to do something that's not connected to all the internal families or has all these connections into each of the agencies. And that's part of the problem. He doesn't have those connections and they're rebelling against him. We are teetering on, we already know, we could really basically say that in 2020, something happened there and the election was stolen. And what could have happened 4 years previously to this didn't happen, and it got worse. And then we saw COVID come in, and then we saw because they wanted to push to be able to have people vote from home so they could go and embezzle votes into it that way. Or I should say place votes into it that way. It was all part of a plan. Imagine if they had controlled the government even further. If Trump hadn't won, where we would be right now. We would be fighting a war over Ukraine right now because they all won.
Yeah, but you will see me starting to advocate something different. I will say that we should all start to learn Chinese. China 万岁, I will change my tune because I think it's hopeless. Without United States, it's hopeless. Might as well just give up. Everybody should learn Chinese. So we are lucky, tentatively, there's some hope that there's some normalcy because people easily forget, especially people who are anti-West, easily forget every single shit right here you are seeing on screen. The thing they're using is all American. Twitter is American. YouTube is American. This StreamYard is probably also American. The internet. Windows is American. People forget, how fast we'll go back to the Stone Age, or not Stone Age, but maybe the pre-World War I age, if you have the total collapse in the United States. It's like the Roman Empire when it collapsed. Civilization actually went back a few hundred years. Because all the technologies that the Romans have is lost. They don't even know how to build Roman roads right now. The Roman roads that last until today. They don't even know how to build it. They don't know how to build the aqueducts. How did they do it? It's lost. This thing can happen to us if United States collapse just like this. All this internet, all these things, like the people in the future will be like, how the fuck did this generation manage to talk with each other across the world, because there will never be internet anymore because all the internet cables will be destroyed in a massive war and sabotage in the multipolar world. We will definitely not be connected. So
you have Musk. Don't worry about that.
Just see the cable cutting, that happened, right? In the Baltic Sea, in the Red Sea. It's not that difficult. There's only a few major highways, for data. So people wish for the downfall of the West. They don't know what they're wishing for.
No, but
it's scary.
Just to say on the topic of Mehdi, just to say in the United States, imagine Kamala Harris winning the elections. And then you have Tim Walz, vice president, and 4-year times, how many damage they're going to expand it after the next term. But you need to really think about that one. Imagine it wasn't Trump. Because Trump, the first thing he started, ICE, you need to deport. We're going to put Dutch. I am really thinking that Musk start to be afraid to be Dutch. And because they want to kill him, something like that. I think the guy discovered so many things. He said, I'm going to step off that one because it's starting to be, I'm going to lose my, because the leftists are also playing with that game by trying to destroying Musk at that moment. I'm going to lose Tesla. I'm going to lose everything. So
And
I'm going to.
you may have you may got something there. No, that's why maybe they put out an act, right? They start to hate each other, right? They put a public act of hating each other, calling each other names. Maybe it's to remove, to like detach themselves further, so
But
that
if
Elon
you-
Musk will be a bit
Wyatt,
safer.
if you just look after that young guy of 23 years old who did that video that exploded Twitter and the number of views, and then you have all these medias like CNN playing the lefty game and saying that the guy was actually just a racist that trying to attack the Somalian people, that shit. The democratic media, the lefties, I'm going to call them the lefties, are mentally, sadly to say, I have nothing against, I am not pro-left or pro-right. Everybody has the right to choose what he wants. But the way that the Democrats are playing the game still right now is so fucking disgusting and dangerous. And then positively, you have like the black community of the United States that are really posting videos to supporting that guy, to turning against the Somalis and to say like, we are black, we are not them. We are born here. We are respecting the values of the countries. We are not doing that. It's fucking nuts what's happening there and how they try to play the. Imagine you're going to have a sort of, not going to say second Charlie Kirk, but that YouTuber is going to be killed by one of the Somalis, and the Democrats are going to laugh to say, oh, he was a racist, he tried to destroy it. And people don't have an idea about money to say, like, every daycare get like an average more than 1 million per year, like nothing. And they even build a beautiful house, put a panel on it, and just getting free money. And all these left people don't give a fuck about finance. It's nuts. And just using the card of racism by not even know what racism means anymore. It's concerning. It's really concerning. I'm not going to speak only for the United States, but now I'm going to use the United States as the example. But the situation is very concerning. And then you have the rights. So what they say, the MAGA, the far right, dangerous people, even after Charlie Kirk, did they do attacks? Did they kill somebody else? Did they burn cities like that the left does, like that the Antifa does? No, they didn't. They went there and they say, we're going to pray, we're going to memorize a guy, we're going to find solutions to find again positivity, going to try to find solutions. And the left is not doing that. It becomes actually very dangerous in the United States. But really imagine, what if Kamala Harris won the elections? That's one to think about.
I want to say something on that, and maybe we can come back to, because there was something you said about regulations quite a while back ago that I wanted to, because regarding EU. But before I get to that one, what you mentioned about the leftists using, like, they're going so far with this racist accusations and so forth to like such a ridiculous degree. Honestly, I think that's a good thing, because it just breaks down the whole notion of identity politics. Why? Because what you pointed out, you will have people like, yeah, okay, maybe I'm black in my skin, but I'm not a Somali. I'm American, right? Just like you would have black Americans would often have like this kind of idealized view of going back to Africa and whatever. So here's a good example. Ghana, a country I tend to visit quite often. They took an initiative of, they call it a year of return, which is kind of like very similar to Zionism if you think about it. If you're black, you can come to Ghana, right? That was basically, if you're black in the Western world, you can come to Ghana and you can start the process of getting citizenship and whatever. Well, unsurprisingly, while this was viewed with very positively in the beginning, and there are certainly some benefits that came with that. I mean, the black Americans who come over are often more wealthy and often better educated and whatnot, but they're not Africans. Okay, you can call them African Americans as much as you want. You can call them like, okay, they're black and whatever. But like even now that I've been quite familiar with Africans, I can spot a black or a Western black person from a mile away. Like I can see that I have more in common with him than I would have with an African, generally speaking. So I think that's a good thing, because that's really how it, like, why would you be like shutting people down because they're pointing out what's true? If the Somalis have a prevalence of abuse in the United States, maybe there's more to it. And guess what? This is nothing new in Norway either. We have known for a long time that they have organized abuse of the welfare system, and they're by far the only one. Just, I'm not singling them out by any means. It's also not that surprising, because it's just like I touched on earlier. They lack the education, they lack the linguistic skills, and while they certainly can work their way up, which many do, right? If you bring them up in the numbers that they have, they lack the incentive. It's much harder for them to actually assimilate in a useful manner where they are productive to the benefit of society, but also to themselves. Which is why, it's not just people who look white and whatever who are like, what the fuck are you guys people doing with this virtue signaling nonsense, trying to shut down conversation because someone's skin color. The result of it has been that you have many of those who did immigrate earlier, they might still be, let's say, Muslim or whatever, and all that kind of jazz. It's irrelevant. They still recognize, like, look, the benefits I have from being born and raised here, or because I came here, this society is actually nice to me in many ways. These people are abusing it, which is a problem for me. I pay taxes for this. I work for it, and also then I'm gonna get shit from people equating me with these kind of degenerate criminals. Obviously, this is like, yeah. So. I've been talking longer than I was supposed to, so I'll see if I can cycle back to the regulations of in Europe, because it pertains to colonization. But yeah, Mehdi.
I'm already off. What I was going to say is that we blame the Somalis. We're saying, because you said if they're prevalent to have a scam, it's not the entire culture, it's not black people, it's the Somalis. But we got to think about something here. Who used the Somalis? Because somebody was benefiting off of all of this. And I see in chat, let's get rid of labels, and I agree. I'm just looking as my government, because I know there are Republicans that were involved in this as well. Many of them, I'm sure, benefited from money that was getting churned through setting up the Somalis and bringing them here. So when we point at the Somalis themselves, let's also include the people that use them as a tool against their own citizenship.
The government. Yeah. And that's what I say. What if Kamala Harris won the elections and Tim Walz is like from Minnesota, the guy is full in it. He's and if you're looking at his last interviews as he did with the press, it's staggering.
I want to pose a question to you guys and also those in the live chat, in particular those who are anti-Western. So I'm not particularly pro-United States. I absolutely get where you have the discontent with the United States and all that, because there is a lot of abuse to it. Of course, there's a lot of abuse to it because there's a lot of power involved. They are the most powerful. So this is actually not surprising. It should be expected. The more relevant question is, if not the United States, then what? To just look at how the Russians and the Chinese are doing it, and you will see that they are hardly any better. And we talked about Iran. That's a good example. And Russia, okay? How is the Chinese with the Russians, who will be kind of the equivalent of the Europeans in terms of power parity, and the Iranians, which will be like slightly smaller, let's say Africa or Latin America or whatever, right? The point is that this is how China in their sphere are treating. What they're doing, they're 100% exploiting their neighbors as well. They're no better than the Americans. The Russians, they are compelled to be selling at a discount. And the Chinese are overtly exploiting it by having the Russians roped in with the same type of unequal exchange as the Westerners have been doing everywhere else. You sell us raw materials and we sell you manufactured goods. And in the process, we indebt you, so you become our bitch, right? Just nothing is different from the United States, nor anyone else in that regard. Iran, same thing there. Why are they not helping it? They're not going to bet on the loser. This is not they're not allies. They're not going to operate on ideological reasons. This is just very useful for them for their manufacturing industry. Super cheap oil. And, sure, the Americans and whatever, they might be a little bit pissed about it because that enables us to undercut them even further and exploit the system that we have. We have a dominance enough to actually exploit it in the regard we can, right? Okay, so what if the Chinese are able to do so? Do you think that they're all of a sudden going to be all that much more altruistic? Do you think that these investment projects that they're doing around in Latin America and Africa is because they're also nice and they want to bring development into the world? Okay, look at how they're doing it then. they're not doing it in any more benevolent way than the West. They're just slightly better terms, slightly better on the interest and whatever. And sometimes they forgive a little bit more often the loans because they have made a bad deal that they couldn't really pay, and so they just want to keep on doing. The business will collapse if they insist on keeping the loan. So that's why they forgive it. And when it comes to the development projects, are they any different from the Europeans? They are meant to serve the Chinese interest. Okay, and when they are building market, it is to serve their industry, because just like with the United States needing to use all other countries to serve the dollar, the Chinese need all other markets to serve the Chinese industry, right? So that's why you would see when the Chinese, as opposed to the Westerners, which would often be, yes, they will be having a lot of stringent terms, they would send their experts and whatever, insofar as it makes economic sense for them, they would utilize local labor and whatever. The Chinese, insofar as they don't have to, they will simply not. Why? Because their industry, their domestic market can simply not take all that industry that they're dealing with. So just like the United States need to export their inflation, the Chinese is doing it thanks to the US dollar. Okay, so if the United States and the reserve currency goes to shit, the Chinese will not get all those US dollars that they have in excess from their manufacturing. What they're using with those excess dollars is to export their industry. So when they are doing, for example, these infrastructure projects, and sure, they may be in some ways more beneficial than the Western ones. One can argue that that's maybe, even if that is the case, it does not change the dynamics of power, how the Chinese will operate. They're offered, when they do the infrastructure progress, they do it with their workers as exclusively as possible, and then they rope these workers in, and the industry and the materials, everything like that. It does not even touch the Africans or any other nation. It all is actually tied into the currency no one else but the Chinese can use. The currency they are using often when they're building something in Africa is with the currency that they're using domestically, which you can never ever use outside of China unless. So what does that mean? It basically means that the Chinese artificially expand their economy, and they're using it under development and human aid. But really, it is because their economy is like overheated in a sense, to avoid it going upon itself. So, yeah, that was a long economic rant. I was actually going to try to touch on the regulations, but again, I kind of go on a tangent. So,
Not a problem. Wyatt, you was willing to say something.
Yeah, I also forgotten because I wanted
come
to
on.
say something.
Yeah. No, but the thing is,
Oh yeah, okay. I know. I remember one of the things just now earlier I wanted to say was, the Elon Musk, and Trump, like, they have this big drama publicly. Then they stop talking to each other, so called, right? Then maybe because they realize that his life is might be under danger because he's now too close to Trump. Then maybe there's a rumors of certain assassination is about to happen. Then Charlie Kirk happened. So Charlie Kirk died. Then, but they're still not too sure is it safe yet. So somehow maybe something had happened in the past 2 months where maybe certain actors have been caught or discovered or whatnot. Then we see Elon Musk now back to his normal self that is fully supporting Trump. I got just now the conversation that inspired me to think maybe this is a reason, because the fallout don't make a lot of sense. But like Elon Musk would have known much better about the economic situation, what is needed to be spent. So there's no reason for him to be attacking the deficit thing, right? Or to cut the spending. Like, they makes no sense. Now he's so supportive. Oh yeah, well done. We go to Venezuela. He's celebrating, but this military need to be paid, and that's where the money went to, right, during the budget. So So I feel like that they may have put on an act because they still have not realized who is the enemy yet. Like, there have been too many hidden enemies. So maybe there's something, some conspiracy behind the scene that they're trying to figure out who they need to take down, or maybe there's some hidden actors that may be threatening Elon Musk's life, or maybe is poised to take him out. That's why Charlie Kirk died. One of the main gel, is the glue of the MAGA movement. So now MAGA movement is fracturing because Charlie Kirk is dead. So this could be one of the reasons as well.
It still says the Charlie Kirk thing still says a very bad one. Sadly, I was not agreeing with everything he said, but he was good, and it changed a lot, and changed a lot of minds of a lot of people. that was set by that leftist way of thinking. Now speaking about China, and I'm going to combine that. So I'm going to change topic. I'm going to combine that with United States in a funny military way. Trump 2 weeks ago said, we need a battleship.